Hi everybody, my name is Clayton Windat, and I'm here to tell you all about my new cookbook, How to Make Clayton, a recipe for managerial practices in the arts. To get started on this project, we're going to go to why I am doing this before we get into the actual wonderful aspect of the book itself. So my name is Clayton. This book is about how to be me or how to make me, and this was initiated upon some really great advice from peers where I kept attempting to solve large-scale managerial problems for the arts sector, and a really great friend said, you know, people don't want you to tell them how to be, people just want you to share how you are. It's totally changed the way my education has gone. It's changed the way I look at the arts sector. And anyway, enough about that. Let's get into me and the whole, like, what led me to this place and why I'm here. So I'm a multi-artist, but that also means many things for me. I've worked in the arts for more than 20 years in various capacities. I've been worked in theater. I've worked in dance. I've worked in visual arts. I've run galleries. I've been a curator. I've been a writer. I've been a filmmaker. There's all kinds of things that I do, and all of these things complement and interact and collide and combine. And all of those things today still find their way into my daily arts practice, especially in working in large-scale art service organizations, because my day job for the last approximate 10 years has been revolving around national scoped art service organizations and working on the art sector as a whole, as opposed to just my own arts practice. I try to work very hard at where these things combined and how to connect them. I am a very, very active performance artist, and I do make work that responds to the scope of my administration and how to bring those things together. And I think that that's more than anything how I ended up in a situation where I was talking about communication is what my art form really is. So whenever I'm making a project, this is all about the message I'm trying to send with the work. The art itself is just the medium in which I'm communicating my message, the way I'm trying to engage and have that discussion. And because of that, it leads me to say that this book, you know, How to Make Clayton, a recipe for managerial practices in the arts, is another of my art projects. It is a way that I am attempting to communicate with people. Although the communications themselves are more of a self-help book in the arts sector, it's also, for me, no different than a performance or a film that I was making. So why a cookbook? Like, why make a cookbook for managerial practices? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and for me, they're very personal reasons. As I was growing up as a child, I would make drawings or paintings, and I would give them to my grandmother, who sometimes would put them on the fridge in her kitchen. And that kitchen had a large dining table. Every kind of major holiday or family gathering or birthday or event, everybody in my extended family would gather here. So there'd be approximately 20 to 25 people in the house, and the majority of them are in this kitchen. And if my artwork was on the fridge in that kitchen, it was like prime real estate. Everybody in my entire world that was important was sitting in proximity to my art. They would all reflect on it, they would see it, and more importantly, like the discussions of like where the family's going, finances, problems and relationships, all these things were discussed in the presence of my work. This today still is one of the most important aspects of my life. I think about curatorial practices, and I think about galleries or performance spaces or arts projects, and how they can have the same meaning, the same feeling as that kitchen. Like, how can a produced exhibition make people feel at home, make people feel comfortable, like they're sitting in a familiar kitchen, make them feel loved, like people that are there around them care about their presence and value this. This is the way I hope to create art, and the way I hope to center my kind of ideology of art making into a cookbook metaphor, so that this entire project has the feeling of that kind of like communal sense. And there's that idea of like people that know me, if they heard, Clayton's making a cookbook about managerial practices, they'd laugh and they say, "Of course I am. That's 100% me." The idea of instructions and ingredients were so similar to how the building blocks of project formation or the rationale behind different kinds of situations in regards to managerial practices, and how they could be broken down in those same manner of saying, like, what are the factors involved in the situation? What are the steps that are needed to go through that process? How can we be breaking these things down in a very basic way, but then also in a way that recipes are very, very adaptable? That there's the best recipes that people have for themselves are the ones that they've made for themselves. So they've changed recipe ingredients, they've taken out things, they've added in things, they have recipe cards where they've transcribed from someone else, they've been handed a recipe by a family member, and that all fits with that worldview of my arts practice and why this makes so much sense to be translating arts actions into recipe cards. So, going to the book, thinking about the factors that are needed to be explored. Well, there has to be some sort of onboarding into the understanding of the book itself. So, a little bit of work introducing things, a little bit of work, looking at what facilitation looks like through this lens. The idea of establishing the scope of a project. As I was developing things, I thought about how establishing scope could involve one or more recipes, and that's what led me to thinking about scope being like a dish, a meal, or a feast. A dish being one recipe, a meal being several recipes that come together, or a feast being many recipes that involve multiple people. This also coincides with the scope of looking at different types of recipes being color-coded. Right now I'm using CMYK as a generic response because the project's really at that foundation stage and I don't want to commit to any kind of visual ideology before going further. I made 3 sample recipes, conflict assessment, making a budget, and making a project, just so I could go through a few different things. But I think about how many more recipes there are that I'm going to have to make in the coming years to get this book completed, and the scope of this project, it's a really beautiful time period. So the project's just getting started. I have this wonderful thing to build upon, and now I'm looking to all of you to give me this last little bit of critical feedback and push me in that direction so that I can do my best to work as hard as I can, help the arts sector, and bring How to Make Clayton, a recipe for managerial practices in the arts, into reality.